Okay, hello. So this is going to be my thoughts on the worst ego in Limbus Company. This is by me. Certain cubes and fumos will say the worst ego in Limbus is Soda Honglu, a certain shrimp ego, if you will. A certain shrimp. I don't know what Kazkozhook's rep. Yeah, I don't know what his thing is anyway. So I assume it's a shrimp. But he will imply or say that it's an ego from an old battle pass with nobody that uses it. Now, let's go over these accusations, shall we? It's time for a soda section. Soda Honglu, while very bad and will continue to get worse, is a healing ego. In a way, Soda Honglu is a budget fluid sac. He heals both HP and SP, and sometimes at the same time, he can heal both. It's pretty cheap too. Now, for things, I will say if we ever get an uptie 5, make the HP healing a percentage, and this will actually become pretty decent. His passive is, well, it's alright, I guess. It's not bad for fights where enemies inflict sinking, like Refraction or Railway 4. But also have a lot of enemies to kill, like the Sweepers or the La Mancha Land enemies. Because you're gonna get a lot of SP from that. It's passive SP healing, which makes it pretty useful. Not the best passive SP healing, obviously, but it's still pretty good. Now it's time for a burner section. 9-2 Faust. Mostly she just suffers from a lack of lust and burn right now. I do think that in the future, this will be much more consistent. Furthermore, it makes activating Magic Bullet Otis, the ID's, passive much easier. For reference, Magic Bullet Otis, the ID's passive is that when an enemy has 4 or lower defense level down, or 4 or more defense level down, she will, on the start of an attack, she will gain up to 20 poise based on how much burn is on the target. So this makes a very consistent way to activate that passive. But it also acts as roughly 2 to 3 fragile, which is, not bad. Sadly, Faust's only burn ID doesn't have a lust skill at all, so it can't make use of this passive. I do think that sometime in the future, maybe Ryoshu's Kanto or something, Faust will get a burn ID with lust skills. Now both of these have their uses. Soda can become good enough with Full Stop Honglu, while 9-2 Faust can become pretty useful in the future if we get more lust skills in the burn team, or a burn Faust with lust on it. Sorry, that's my cat. I don't know if you can hear her. Now, what do I think the worst ego is in Limbus, you ask? This shit right here. Soda Ryoshu is so bad. It rolls a 25, which is lower than Forced for the Flames Ryoshu. It inflicts 6 sinking potency, which Ryoshu doesn't have a single sinking ID. And, it gives you ego resources, Ash. And it heals your entire team's SP. You're probably saying that right now. Or commenting that. But if you looked at the conditional for that, you'd realize that you need to kill with this piece of shit for that to activate. Side note, the attack weight is only gained at you uptie 4. Or thread spin 4. For a Zayn ego. I will also say that it increases the sinking potency from 5 to 6. if you get uptie 4, or thread spin 4, still kind of shit. What does Forest get from thread spin 4? You'll see. Either way, the corrosion isn't much better either. It rolls at 26, inflicts 6 sinking again, and doubles the amount of E.G.O resources you generate for the churn. But that's this churn, meaning if she's last, and surprisingly a lot of her IDs are somewhat slow, you don't get... The only benefit you get from this after attack effect is 1 haste. And you also need uptie 4 for that 1 haste. The passive is the best part of this. If she had a sinking ID. Unless you were explicitly running a ryoshu ID with sinking from the future, or an ID without sinking in a sinking team, you will never make much use of this. And this is defense power down, meaning it won't make clashes easier. And the cost of using this is shit. Using this shit, it is insane for a shitty Zayn E.G.O. 15 sanity on Awakening, 2 Gluttony, which are rare outside of Rupture teams, Pride, 2 Pride, and Envy. That's bumped to 23 of those, and 3 of those each of those resources. This is clearly a sinking E.G.O, and it costs 3 of the more elusive sin affinities in an average sinking team. But that's not the worst part. You know how Soda is a Zayn E.G.O? The singular E.G.O risk level that everybody has for every sinner? This is Ryoshu's base E.G.O, the one everyone has. It applies 6 burn, so 6 free damage. It rolls a 28, and applies 2 next turn fragile. This allows you to set up for a new turn, and it clashes really well. For uptie 4, this rolls 4 higher than it does at uptie 3. It inflicts 1 more fragile next turn, and I'd say that's pretty good compared to 1 attack weight gained. And some other things. What's the passive for this shit? It makes you deal and take 5% more damage for each enemy that Ryoshu killed last turn. This is by far the worst part of the E.G.O, and it's still pretty good. If you say defeat 7 enemies with a WoW E.G.O, from her in a fight, like full stopped by a bullet fight with this active, you deal and take 35% more damage for an entire turn. That's pretty good for fodder deletion fights like that. And the real kicker, the costs of using it. 2 Lust and 2 Wrath, which are both very common sin affinities in modern limbus, as well as 10 sanity, which makes it cheaper to use than Soda. All in all, Soda Ryoshu is a piece of shit that you should never use because you have a much better option for free. And Soda, the other 2 E.G.O that I mentioned, aren't as bad as other people will make you think. Goodbye.